When you have a distribution as AT&T and a content as in Time Warner, together they make a very powerful, player in the marketplace. I think the interesting thing, in my view, is the sort of ripping down or destructuring of net neutrality. And I think that's really what the market should be focused on. Vertical, mergers of this nature really open it up, whether they are, have monopolistic power or not. And everyone will clearly discuss the fact that the content globally is so fragmented. It's hard for a single player to move in there without, and restricting competition. But when you actually strap on the AT&T alongside the end of net neutrality, then you can start having some real issues. If AT&T slows down competitors' distribution channels, their networks, Netflix, Google, Amazon, it becomes, an anti-competition type of throttle, which is quite effective.
Is this then what's been behind this whole argument the whole time? I
think so. I think, the Department of Justice argument is quite loose, given the sort of the
gossamer thin, I think somebody calls it.
Yeah, exactly. given the actuality and how many choices consumers have. But when you take this idea that they have this distribution channel alongside the end of net neutrality, they could really put the brakes on any competitor using a variety of different tools, and that becomes very difficult to challenge.
And on top of all of this is going to open the kind of floodgates for more mergers of this kind. I mean, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's this competition or combining distribution with content providers, I think, is a wide open sort of M&A gold mine. I was thinking about when I was coming over here, like, where could we start seeing these mergers happen? And the truth of the matter is, almost anywhere in Europe. I think the focus has always been sort of the combination of these national players and sort of a horizontal type of merger. And that's very difficult to think about given sort of the antitrust rules in Europe. But when you start thinking vertical, it opens up a wide range of players.
So this really could have an impact here in Europe?
I think so.
I mean, are there any specific companies that you're thinking of?
I'm not a sector guy. I'm definitely from a macro standpoint. But, give me a few minutes, I could probably put together some pretty interesting deals.
OK, well, let's talk about markets, because, this is a massive week for the markets. We've had the Trump-Kim summit, the Fed. That's happening momentarily. ECB tomorrow, Bank of Japan before Friday. I mean, what's on your radar? What's your biggest challenge?
Well, the interesting thing I think to remember is that despite the fact that we're having these massive headline trade war, North Korea-U.S. summit, you look at volatility. As a measure of sort of the VIX index, it continues to contract. It's actually now at sort of lows since January. So the market's really not reacting too heavily to these headline news. It wants more clarity on the monetary policy standpoint. And this is where it really gets interesting. I think we were at a reflection point with the U.S. dollar, where we can either go two ways. One is continued monetary policy divergence, where therefore the Fed is ending their tightening cycle, while the ECB and BOJ are beginning their tightening cycle, which should favor European and yen currencies. On the other hand, because of the sort of fiscal indiscipline of the U.S. Government, they have to issue about $2.5 trillion of debt, which may actually hoover up all the loose dollars, sort of hoover up all the loose capital into dollars, and therefore strengthening the dollar globally. So the question is, which is going to play out? Is it going to be monetary policy divergence or the Fed sort of bond issuing trap?
What about the G7 on top of all of this? Because, I mean, if you're saying that, are you saying that even the disagreements at the weekend, that still isn't enough?
I don't,
to rattle markets, to change things?
No, I don't think. I mean, what we're seeing is still very much tit for tat. We still think that, the U.S. is only, about 25% of the global marketplace. There's still 75% of the world's markets that act without the U.S. So, trade is still going to go on despite the fact that Trump is, disrupting trade every which way he can. So I think there's that fact that, yes, there's going to be this volatility. But on the other hand, in the long term, it's not going to be a decisive factor in globalization, which will continue moving the way it has.
Okay, so we're expecting something from the Fed tonight. We're also expecting something from the ECB this week.
Correct.
Let's bring it right back home to Switzerland, though. I mean, what are the impacts here?
Well, I think the problem with Switzerland is a small open economy, so therefore it's very much affected by what the Fed does and what the ECB does. So in terms of the Swiss monetary policy, I think the S&B is going to be sitting on the sideline watching what's happening very carefully. In our expectations, with what the ECB is likely to do, it's probably going to be a very positive thing for the S&B's policy, as well as for as well as weakening the Swiss franc, which should be good for Switzerland.
I'm going to head on over to our touchscreen now because we've been playing the SNB challenge here on the Swiss Pulse. And
yes.
I guess what I'm asking you is that are the changes with the Fed expected tonight and what's expected from the ECB tomorrow, is that going to change the SNB stance? I mean, Thomas Jordan told us last week it's never going to happen anytime soon. But when do you think rates will change
We're
here?
sort of away from consensus. We don't believe that the softness in Europe has really changed the ECB's path. So we believe that on Thursday, the ECB will signal the deceleration and ending of quantitative easing in 2019, starting in November, ending in December. So this is a very big piece in our expectations for the S&B.
So when do you think you'll see the first rate hike here?
So we are predicting 2019, September, along with the quarterly monetary policy assessment that the S&P...
I'm going to circle
you may have to
September,
give it
and I'm going to pretend
year.
that says 2019.
Yes, exactly. And for the record, 2019, September.
Okay.
Let's be very
what about
clear
a
on
date?
that.
Can I push you on that?
Well, they generally have their meetings around the 15th, 16th, 17th of September. So we think that's when it would likely occur.
Okay. I'm going to put the 15th of September.